hospitals in Syria's overcrowded opposition-held enclave are suspending non-emergency procedures and outpatient services following the detection of the first case of coronavirus. The Regional Education Department also announced it was closing all schools. The first case of COVID-19 was reported on Thursday in Idlib province, the last opposition-held part of Syria bordering Turkey. Russia and China vetoed the last-ditch attempt by Western members of the UN Security Council to extend approval, which expires on Friday, for humanitarian aid to be delivered across two border crossings into Syria from Turkey for the next 6 months. The United Nations says millions of Syrian civilians in the country's northwest depend on the humanitarian aid delivered from Turkey, describing it as a lifeline. This was the third failed vote on the issue by the Council and the second vetoes by Russia and China this week. Iraqi lawmaker Ghida Kambish died after contracting the novel coronavirus, its first member to succumb to the virus as it spread ramps across the country. The 46-year-old was a three-time MP for Baquba, northeast of Baghdad, and helped pass laws on education reform and social welfare. According to the International Rescue Committee, after seeing a relatively slow spread in the first 5 months of 2020, cases spiked 600% in June alone. A military buildup around the Libyan city of Sirte has raised fears of a major battle for control of the area's strategic oil reserves. The Libyan National Army, or the LNA, which has occupied Sirte since May, accused Turkey of targeting the oil-rich city and supplying militias in the area with weapons. An LA spokesman, Ahmed al-Mismari, said that Western Libya is under total Turkish control. He said that Turkey aims to reach Libya's oil crescent, a coastal region home to most of its oil export terminals. A Lebanese government delegation held a meeting with the International Monetary Fund (IMF), the first since the talks was declared on hold last week. Lebanon began talks with the IMF in May, hoping to secure aid to tackle the financial crisis, considered the biggest threat to the country since its 1975-1990 civil war. The meeting, which was attended by Energy Minister Raymond Jagger, dealt with reforms in the state-owned electricity sector, which has held state funds for decades and is seen as one of the major causes of the crisis. European diplomatic sources said that the converging positions on Lebanon between U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and his French counterpart reflected the atmosphere that prevailed in the recent quarter meeting in Rome, which gathered officials from the Vatican, the United States, France, and Britain. They added that the harmony between Washington and Paris towards Lebanon was occurring for the first time since the issuance of UN Security Council Resolution 1559 in 2004, which called for the disarmament of Lebanese and non-Lebanese militias. Algeria reimposed travel restrictions and increased testing in a bid to stop a rise in novel coronavirus infections. Under the measure, citizens will be barred from traveling to and from 29 provinces, including the capital, Algiers, for a week starting on Friday. The North African country has reported 17,708 confirmed infections and 988 deaths. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced that the Hagia Sophia, one of the architectural wonders of the world, would be reopened for Muslim worship, sparking fury in the Christian community and neighboring Greece. His declaration came after a top Turkish court revoked the 6th century monument's status as a museum, clearing the way for it to be turned back into a mosque. The UNESCO World Heritage Site in historic Istanbul, a magnet for tourists worldwide, was first constructed as a cathedral in the Christian Byzantine Empire, but was converted into a mosque after the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453. The International Air Transport Association (IATA) emphasized the aviation industry's commitment to its emissions reduction goals and called for the International Energy Agency (IEA) to prioritize investment in sustainable aviation fuel (SAF) to help power aviation's contribution to the post-COVID-19 recovery. IATA's call comes on the eve of the IEA Clean Energy Transition Summit, which will meet virtually to debate moves toward a low-carbon future. The IEA is well placed to promote SAF production with its stakeholders both in government and in the fuel industry. The EU strategies for energy system integration and hydrogen will pave the way towards a more efficient and interconnected energy sector in Europe, said the European Commission press release. European Commission's Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans noted that from 2020 to 2024, the EU would support the installation of at least 6 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen electrolysis in the EU and the production of up to 1 million tons of renewable hydrogen. He said from 2025 to 2030, hydrogen needs to become an intrinsic part of our integrated energy system with at least 40 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen and the production of up to 10 million tons of renewable hydrogen in the EU. Kashmir's new media policy may completely wipe out journalism from the region in a move analysts and journalists themselves see as the Indian government's attempt to control the narrative in the troubled region. The executive editor of Jammu-based English newspaper Kashmir Times said that it's an attempt not only to gag and silence the media but also kill the media. Under Media Policy 2020, Directorate of Information and Publication Relations officials have the authority to examine media content and assess whether it's fake, unethical, or anti-national. The booming rooftop solar panel industry nosedived overnight when the coronavirus forced homeowners to rein in spending and keep their distance from would-be installers. Now, in their struggle to survive, companies on both sides of the Atlantic are turning to online marketing rather than knocking on doors, using drones to inspect roofs, arranging digital permits, and coming up with attractive new financing plans, according to interviews with 12 executives. According to the International Energy Agency, Stoke is a future of a key driver of the global transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Solar power was the second fastest growing renewable source after wind in 2019. A U.S. federal court has held Iran responsible for the 1996 bombing of the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia, where U.S. forces were housed, and ordered it to pay $879 million to survivors. The Khobar Towers was a housing complex in the eastern city of Al Khobar near the Abdulaziz Air Base and Saudi Aramco's headquarters in Dhahran that housed American servicemen working on Operation Southern Watch. A truck bomb was detonated on June 25, 1996, near an 8-story building of the housing complex. It killed 19 U.S. Air Force personnel and a Saudi national, wounding 498 others. An UN-backed tribunal into the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri in a huge car bombing in 2005 will deliver its long-awaited verdict on August the 7th. Hariri, who was Lebanon's prime minister until his resignation in 2004, was killed in February 2005 when a suicide bomber detonated a van next to his armored convoy on the Beirut seafront. Another 21 people were killed and 226 injured in the assassination, with fingers pointing at Syria, which had long been a power broke in the country.